Another really cool thing. So we just heard, for those of you who are in the last session here, that one of the big challenges on Twitter is figuring out who to pinpoint, right? How do you target that massive audience in the first place? And same thing on Facebook. On Pinterest, some of that happens organically because of the way the platform was built. So when I'm on Twitter and I follow you, I'm following all of your tweets. And nothing to offend anyone in this room, but generally I find 90% of tweets that come through my stream are not particularly relevant to me because people tweet about all different topics over time. And people pin about all different topics over time. The difference is I can choose to follow the entire profile or follow individual boards, or in other words, individual streams of content that I'm more likely to find interesting. And so what we see in the data is that over time, as users become more experienced on Pinterest, they migrate from hitting that red follow all button to hitting these gray follow buttons for individual boards. So they become more advanced users. They begin to target the content in their stream more effectively. And now Pinterest is actually doing things to accelerate that even further. So Pinterest actually just announced, I believe it was last week, that they are now inserting pins into people's home feeds from users you have not followed as long as the pins match your interests, right? So that's the fundamental concept here. And as a result, the content kind of finds its audience as long as you help it along the way by using things like the right keywords, the right board names, categorizing your boards, and so forth. But we'll get into some of the specific tactics in a bit. So if you can imagine this, right, it's aspirational. People are actively looking to discover things. The content is better targeted just organically. And as a result, well, what does that mean for referrals? Well, if you look at Pinterest's share of referrals versus their share of audience, there is a massive difference between Pinterest and Twitter and Facebook. So it's about 12.5x versus Facebook, about 14x versus Twitter. But basically, each user who engages with your content on Pinterest is likely to be more valuable and is more likely to visit your site than a user who engages with your content on those other platforms. And this is part, again, of just how the platform is built, right? It's a discovery engine. It's a search engine in a lot of ways. So they don't, when you click on a pin, they let you link off on every piece of content on the site. On Twitter and Facebook, you've got to have a link embedded in the post, right? And a lot of posts don't have them in the first place, right? So it's natural that you would see higher referral traffic. And there's a lot of data out there. I chose one study that seemed more comprehensive than others, but this was one third-party study that looked at e-commerce sites and tried to figure out what the average order value was on those sites for users coming from Pinterest versus the other platforms. And what they found was, in addition to driving more referrals per user, the users were more likely to purchase, and when they did purchase, they purchased more. So a difference of $180 AOV versus 80 or 70. So if you think about the compounding through the chain here, what this means to me as a marketer is if I invest in Pinterest in the long term as the audience continues to grow there, even though it's already quite large, there is a lot of potential upside from a referral and revenue perspective.